Warning: this podcast may contain offensive language, harsh criticisms of religion, the occasional political rant, and science talk, which some see as alternative facts.
In fact, I don't even like the multiverse, but I've learned to force my beliefs to conform to the evidence of reality. That's where science differs from religion.
Now, I am absolutely convinced that the main source of hatred in the world is religion.
If you base the design of rockets on science, they reach the moon. It works. Bitches.
Welcome to the Recklessly Skeptical Podcast.
Hey Joe, is it just me or do I feel some type of demonic presence?
I'm feeling something.
What could that be?
It's Satan. It's too early for this, man.
It's not too early for this. Well, we'd like to welcome, we have a guest from the Satanic Temple. Her name is Chalice Blythe, right?
Yes.
So-
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
And you're the head of the chapter here in
Utah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, as far as Satanism goes, so we're going to ask you some questions, and then we'll kind of treat it like a conversation after that. But, so as far as Satanism goes, I've heard a couple of different things about what it is. I've heard some people say that Satanism is more on like the pagan side of things, and I've known people who have acted like there's spells and stuff. And then I've also heard of Satanism like people who adopt Satan as like a symbol of rebellion, but they're really atheists. Where do you fall on that scale?
Well, we are atheistic Satanists, so yes, we do adhere to the notion of Satan as is simply a literary figure of the ultimate rebel against the ultimate tyrannical force.
Cool.
Very cool.
So tell us a bit about like the Satanic Temple here in Utah.
So the Satanic Temple here in Utah, we were founded back in February of last year, so we're a year old as of this month.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it. And we, we're still in the process of building the community here. We're very, Satanists are a very small group here considering. So, but we do have a lot of support from the atheist group. So we have our core membership, but we also have a lot of allies and supporters, in different various groups, not just the atheist groups, but a lot of the different ones around. We have a few, Christian supporters and, people who identify as other, but, so we're, still working on trying to expand ourselves within the community, not necessarily trying to recruit more people, but more, being within the community, doing things, that benefit others, outside of ourselves. But.
So you want to have some sort of presence.
Yeah.
But you do have some Christian support, you said?
Yeah, they understand. So when we say we have these supporters, they clearly don't identify as Satanists, but they do understand and they do support the actions that we get involved in. When we're dealing with a lot of the separation of church and state, or women's reproductive health, or the Baphomet statue that we have, they understand what it is we're trying to do, and they support it. So
okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So let's rewind to a year ago. How did it come into? How did that
Come into
happen?
being?
Yes.
So I was involved with the Satanic Temple prior to getting chapterhood. I had been a part of the community for a couple years at its, not at its inception, but a little bit afterwards, and got to know a lot of the people within the community, and people at the top, and other chapter heads, other Satanists. And so when time came around, they had a moratorium on chapters because they were just expanding so quickly, and they really needed to kind of get the formula together as far as this is how we form chapters, this is how we want them to function, and not in a way of this is how we need everything done. Just like here are the basics of what we expect, and every chapter has its own flavor, so they're free to run it as they see fit. So I basically just stuck in the ear of everybody for a long time, saying, I think Utah would really benefit from having a chapter here, and, we have the people, we have the support. And so I had my interview with Lucian Greaves December of, what year is this, 2015.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was an interview at the time because I wasn't going for chapter head.
Okay.
I kind of saw myself more as somebody who could, help garnish the support and get the people, and then, they could determine who could be chapter head. I never in a million years thought it would be me. But so I had the call, and, we talked a lot about, why I felt Utah needed a chapter, what, things we could do, what it would benefit us as a state. And I didn't hear anything for a little bit. And then, but, in February, I just got an email saying, hey, Utah's got its chapter, and you're the chapter head. It's like, oh, great.
That's good luck.
I heard Lucian's a pretty chill dude. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, he's someone who I've looked up to, and I've actually heard about the moratorium. I didn't know that got lifted and we were allowed to have a chapter, but I knew about it a couple of years ago, actually, back when American Atheists came here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, that's always interested me. And so, like, what drew you to Satanism as a thing back in 2015?
Well, I'd always known about Satanism. When I was a teenager, I was raised just generic Christian. I wasn't LDS or anything, just a very, very New Testament, way of growing up. But when you're a teenager and you're kind of exposing yourself to, other thoughts, other ways of life out there, I came across the Satanic Bible, which is written by Anton LaVey, and he's the one that founded the Church of Satan back in the 60s. And, I read it and thought it was kind of revolutionary, just in the fact that it was so in line with what I thought, what was the case for a lot of things. And when you're raised in a, conservative household, and you're in a conservative state, and, you're raised with certain values and ways of thinking, it's just incredible to read stuff like that, say, you individual will, and you don't have to worship a god to do good things or to be a good person. It's all about kind of the worship of self and, the greatness within you. And so that's some awesome stuff to read when you're a teenager and you're kind of getting away from your Christianity. But so I read that, and it was, for me, it just wasn't everything I wanted as far as how I felt about things. So it was kind of like a 60-40. Really liked a lot of what it said, but there was also a lot I disagreed with. So it's and then I read it again a few years later just to maybe see if there was something I missed. I wasn't putting enough thought or analysis onto it. And again, COS was just never the thing for me. And, at the time, that was what, you think of Satanism. They were, they were the major satanic organization at the time. So it was always in the back of my head, but I just identified as just an atheist for a lot of years. And then the Satanic Temple, when they came out with their Baphomet statue campaign, is when I became aware of them. And I looked into it. I thought it was really fascinating. And, I read the tenets, and it clicked. It was everything about Satanism that I really respected and really liked, but it had everything that I thought was missing. So yeah, I identified heavily with it. I read it and I was like, oh well, shit, I guess I'm a Satanist. And so yeah, I became a member and got involved with we have like a discussion forum, so they created that around the time that I joined up, and got to know everybody and really found my tribe. So that's how
Great.
I got involved.
Yeah. So unless were you ready with the question, Matt?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what would you say the main purpose or the couple main purposes of the Satanic Temple, what they are? What are the goals?
The goals.
If you could sum it up easily.
Well, the Satanic Temple is, we're an atheistic, satanic organization, and we, our purpose is to, be who we are, and we obviously have a lot of activism that we do, which is adheres to how it affects us, as a religious organization. So, we, everything that we get involved in our activism has, a lot to do with, like separation of church and state, and then our own tenets. We get involved with the reproductive rights, which, holds our tenet, the bodies and Bible subject to one's will alone. That's why we get involved with that. So, to kind of establish ourselves as a, just as a real religious organization. We do feel that we are that. We definitely fit within like the legal definition of what a religion is, and we've constantly been challenged on that. If you're atheist and you call yourself Satanist, how are you a religion? And so we try to point out that we have every facets of what a religion is. We have the cultural identity, we have the community, we have the set values, and it's a real identity. It's just there's no supernaturalism to it. And when we talk about religion, we also have to realize and remember that certain religions, when we in this society, they have rights and privileges that all other groups don't. So if we're saying that a religion only is valid if they have some kind of superstitious element to it, then you're saying that only the superstitious, they're the only ones that have the rights to those privileges and exemptions and stuff. So we feel that we have every other facet to a religion that's important, that really establishes what that is. So a lot of that is establishing that, and also being active where we're see fit, and we have a lot of chapters that are forming. So it's ever expanding. We're international, so we have a chapter in Mexico. We have chapters in Britain. We ever expanding. There are a few other ones. I don't know how active they are anymore, but there are some other ones. We know that other people are trying to get some in other countries as well. So
cool. If I wanted to read the tenets and catch up on it, is there a website I could go to?
Yeah, it's just the satanictemple.com.
I think we've gone there before. The Ten Commandments versus the Satanic. Yes.
Yeah, I think that
which I
article
love
was floating around
10
for a
times
while.
better.
Yeah.
100 times.
Yeah, but Satanism coming to a town near you. That's great. It's funny. Also, religious arguments, how they'll say atheism is a religion when they want to debate somebody, but then when it becomes like we want recognition, and the
You're not a religion.
Yeah, you're not a religion.
You're not,
But and legally speaking, I am studying law, but at a paralegal level.
Nice.
I find it. Satanism fascinating because it has a stronger stance, because it's hard for Christians to say Satanism isn't a real thing, because they're like scared of Satan, as opposed to like atheists, they can say you're not a religion. But so Matt had some articles about the
So I wanted to ask you about some things going on here in Utah,
Sure.
the after school program, and some other things going on. So we can start with the after school program. Can you tell us about that? And just tell us about it, and we can get the word out there, so maybe you can get some more kids in there.
Yeah, so we have our After School Satan Club. It's at Vista Elementary School, and we're scheduled to be there every second Wednesday of the month between 3:30 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. And it is under a, this isn't sponsored by the school or the district. This is simply a, private organization coming in and renting space from the school. It's going really well. We had our open house in January, and then we had our very first class this last Wednesday, February 8th, and went really well. So we have another one in March, and so we're going to just basically just go throughout the rest of the school year, is what our agreement has. So
cool. Do you get a lot of protesters at that, or
surprisingly no. It's really interesting. Portland and Washington. Oregon and Washington, they both have their clubs as well, and they were met with so many protesters when they started, and not a single protester showed up for ours. So
And
That is so surprising.
because I feel like they're more liberal than we are.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And I think that it's not. So sometimes I think that the press doesn't play things. So locally, I have never heard of this until Matt kind of brought it up to my attention. So I don't think that it's anybody's organized against it per se.
Yeah, there was no. So when we first announced last year, it was late July, early August. When was it? June or July? Anyway, when we first announced that we were going to be doing this, I was doing interviews for a full straight week with our local media, and there was a big uproar about it. But it's taken us a while to get to the point where we went through all the hoops and all the rental agreements and everything with the district, and finally got in. So I think it would have been a different case had we immediately gone in with the start of the school year, but because it took us a while, people kind of forget. They, all the hysteria kind of dies down after a while, and but I also didn't want to turn this into a media circus either. I mean, I had no control over the major announcement of it, but as far as everything on a local scale, I had control about who I talked to and, released information to. And it essentially came down to not wanting to turn this into a circus, because this isn't, this isn't a media stunt for us. I mean, this is legitimate. We have we built a curriculum. We really feel like we're doing something good for the kids. So when we had our first one, I didn't really talk to anybody. Like the Trib, they were the only ones that were monitoring it, and they came to me and asked me about it. But everyone else, it was after the fact. So the Trib comes out with their article, and everyone else hops on the bandwagon. So, but yeah, it was purposely done that way.
I got a quick question. I
Sure.
got in an argument with somebody about the after-school program, and they were like, "I can understand how you guys fight against church and state, but why are they teaching the kids evil things?
Why aren't we?
Or why are you?"
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think you understand exactly what the Satanic Temple is.
Yeah.
And I taught them, or I told them that the curriculum is mostly science and stuff like that.
Yeah,
correct?
we're not teaching Satanism. In
Yeah,
that
see, and
class,
that's I was like,
Can you go into what you were teaching them a little bit?
Well, the curriculum is set up to, we have our values of, rationality, scientific inquiry, everything like that. So everything that we're teaching is absolutely in line with that, without any mention of Satanism whatsoever. Because these are things, these kind of things are good for kids no matter what background they have at all. I mean, this seems like something that everyone should want to know, or, develop a skill for. So yeah, all of our classes have something to do with one class will deal with how to handle situations where they come across debate, like how do you respectfully debate somebody if you have two opposing views. How do you we present them with a task and say, okay, we have this task, you have to complete it. How do you solve this problem? How do you use critical thinking and to solve this? So it's all a lot of fun. It's all kid based, but those are the skills that they're developing with these tasks at hand. So it's different. Each class has a different theme, and we try to match it with the month. We're a little behind, so we're so we only have the 4, but it's. Yeah, no Satanism whatsoever, no evil, nothing like that. But
And the opposite side, the Christian after-school programs, they are teaching Jesus and that sort of thing. So
yeah, they're so the other group, the ones that kind of inspired us to get involved in this was the Good News Club, and it's hosted by the Child Evangelism Fellowship, and they're very, very Old Testament-y. The sole intent for these clubs is to proselytize and recruit children, and they actually use those children to recruit other children. And it's not. And the disturbing part of it is that it's not just they'll say that they're just teaching Christ's love and everything like that. But if you actually read the materials, because we have copies of that. It's teaching kids that they're born into sin. There's nothing they can do about it, and the product of sin is death, and threatening kids with this idea that if they don't do things their way, they'll burn in hell, or their loved ones will. So it's pretty important material if you think about it, and I think most Christians would actually agree. I mean, this group is. I think they're even at odds with the Catholic Church, and that says a lot. So this is stuff that I think if other Christians were to know that this stuff was being taught at school, they would object to it as well. And so part of the purpose of having an after school club is to kind of complement and contrast what is already being offered, and to kind of shed some light of what's been going on in the schools, and really having parents question whether or not they're okay with that, because kids it's hard for them to separate the two because they go to school to learn, right?
Yeah.
And they see the teachers there. They see that setting as a learning setting. So if that's the kind of things that they're learning in school, they're taking it as
literal
fact, as opposed to this is just they don't separate the religious aspect from the other aspects of it. So.
Well, like the school is an authority to them.
Yeah.
And then so they take everything they learn from the schools as fact.
Yeah.
And then when they turn around and teach all that Christian nonsense, they're taking that as fact as well.
Yeah, these authority figures are telling them this is how it is, and because of the setting it is, and and it also kind of goes into this idea of separation of church and state. It's do you really want any religious group, and that includes our group? I mean, do you want any religious group in our schools teaching children? So. We have nothing controversial or abhorrent in our curriculum, but hopefully, I know that the school district sent out a letter to the parents at Vista saying, if you have we are abiding by the law. They are lawful. They are within the law. They're not doing anything, bad. But if this is an issue for you, contact your lawmakers. Make them aware that you're not okay with it. Yeah. And that's good too. I mean, we're of the opinion that either you let everyone in or you don't allow anybody in. So.
And I did hear one kid left the school.
I heard that one kid was removed from that school because of it.
Well, now we just got to find where that kid is and get another after-school program in that school. Just chase him around.
No, you're chasing around the parents. I feel bad for the kid.
No, I know.
Yeah. Well, depending on how well the school year goes and how much interest we have, we could probably expand into other schools. It just kind of depends on how this year goes. So.
Great. I can't wait till one gets in Provo. That would definitely make news. There's just no way.
That would be a completely different story. Yeah.
So how was the district, the school district, to work with? Were they nice or okay?
Yeah, nice, respectful. They knew that we were coming in and we were requesting the same right to host a club as any other after school club. So
now, do we have a lot of Christian after school clubs here?
Yeah, I mean, and the big one is the institute. Because you can take free time and you go off campus to go to institute, or I'm trying to think.
Seminary?
Seminary, yeah.
I remember seminary.
I mean,
that's a big one.
Yeah.
And most of it is during school, so it's definitely part of the day. That was my favorite class to take because you could slough it the easiest.
Well, I remember most of my best. So in middle school, me and my friends, we were all gothic and rebels and all that stuff, and then. My buddy JD, my best friend at the time, JD, he was extremely gothic and, into the Satanism a lot more than I was, but he took seminary class and stuff, and he loved it.
He actually went?
He would go, yeah, he would go.
Would he debate, or would he just
He would debate most of the time. He would get in
awesome.
trouble.
If I had to do things all over again, that's probably what I would do.
Yeah, And he kept trying to get me to go, and I was like, no, I don't want nothing to do with any God thing, I was over it at that point. So
yeah, I didn't even know what seminary was. Because I didn't grow up LDS, so everyone's like, "Oh, we're going to seminary." I'm like, I have no idea what the hell that is.
Yeah.
But,
How did your? I am curious. How did your parents take it when you kind of edged towards atheism and then Satanism? Because my background, I was raised LDS, and they didn't take it very well at first.
So the nice thing about my parents is that they. I was trying to avoid the conversation for as long as possible, and I tried to limit what they were saying once I got more involved with the Satanic Temple. But it really was just hey, we know, and we just want you to, they took the time to actually look into it before ever having a conversation with me about it. So they know, they accept it. They've been really supportive of me. Obviously they don't like it, but they do support me, and they realize that this isn't just a phase. This is very sincere to me, and this is who I am, and they know that we're not doing bad things, we're not bad people. So
very cool.
It's been okay, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's good.
So we also wanted to talk about the Arkansas bill. Have you heard about this yet?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So we were just kind of sum it up for the listeners. Matt, do you have a breakdown or?
Yeah. So Arkansas passed a bill 91-0 to try and block a statue of Baphomet, and so they awarded a Christian group the right to put the Ten Commandments there, right? So then the Satanic Temple went and requested to put a Baphomet statue, and they are trying their damnedest to stop that.
Yeah, so how it went was back in, I want to say 2012, I could be off, but a few years ago, Arkansas passed I don't know if it's a resolution or a law, but stating that they could, build a Ten Commandment statue on, in their Monument Park is what they're calling it. And so it's been sponsored by Senator Jason Rapert, Stanley Rapert.
She knows it a little bit.
And so he's been really pushing for it, and it will be privately funded at the very least, but it will be on display on Capitol grounds. And so, knowing that, we applied and said we have our own statue that we'd like to donate as well. And so we applied, and we've been going through the process of getting it approved. So we have been talking to the commission board, showing our plans, and they've been asking us about how it's going to be erected, and how it's gonna, there's like a pedestal or something you have to put it on to cement it in place. So we've given all our designs, all the construction stuff, and it's going through the process. But this thing with the 91-0, what happened was, after we had gone through the process of the approval, and we're still in it, so we're scheduled to have a public hearing on it, so it's just the very next step of the whole application process. They knew that we were going forward, so they decided to pass a resolution saying that we couldn't, saying that any proposed statue any proposed donation had to be approved by the legislature. So they were trying to deny us, even though, deny us after the facts, but even though we're already going through the legal process. So it's been challenged. Our lawyer, Stu DeHaan, he's out in Arizona, he sent them a demand letter saying, we have the right to do this, that's a big no-no. So after he sent the letter, we got our response, and we're tentatively scheduled to have our due process. So we're scheduled to have our public hearing sometime soon, I think in May sometime. So
Great.
Yeah. So they're trying. Stanley is trying really, really hard to fight us, but he.
So who would be in charge of the approval then? So there's a commission board that oversees stuff like that, and they're the ones who approve or disapprove it, or approve or disapprove it. So.
So, and do you have any feeling about what will likely happen, or do you already think it's going to be a long battle?
It really depends. It's been really surprising how much pushback we're getting from just this one senator. He's, Stanley is really adamant about not having us there. But I think it's going to go one of two ways. Either we all have our statues and we'll, have ours next to the Ten Commandments, or maybe they'll decide to do away with it whatsoever. Either one is good with us, so. Yeah,
and like Senator Inhofe is somebody who I think is faking not knowing anything about global warming. Do you think most of these politicians who are passing these things are ignorant to what the Satanic Temple is about, or do you think that that they knowingly are just trying to stand up for their Christian constituents?
Oh, they know.
They know?
They're smart enough to know.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I thought, and that's the way I think most of the people who stand out publicly, like Ted Cruz, who stands out on a platform and says, "Oh, anti-Satan, non-Christian stuff," and I just can't think that he's ignorant of a lot of the facts, even though he acts like he is.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all of our information is out there. If they take 2 seconds to look at our website, they'll know exactly what we're about and who we are. So it's really just making a statement about the fact that we're Satanists. I mean, it's... Yeah,
and I kind of ask about the symbol of Baphomet. Baphomet isn't Satan, right?
No, it's just an old pagan representation of the elements that the high and above, and male female. So it's just kind of consolidation of the opposites.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't know that for sure.
Yeah, I didn't either. That's cool.
Yeah, it's been around a while.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys have any other questions? Because I have some. But
Go
those
for it,
are
Josh.
Yeah, go for
So
it.
kind of the future of Satanism, do you see it as being like a community thing in the future, or do you think that Satanism will eventually serve its purpose and die out? Like a form of community, like that people will gather around, like instead of having, because I've known of some church or some atheist groups trying to do like a Sunday school thing, but not really Sunday school, but just to create a sense of community, like so that people have something to go to, like a club.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Satanism has been around. I mean, as an organized religion, as we know, since the 60s. I mean, Satanism has been around a lot longer than that, but, you know, you think of Satanism, you think of Church of Satan mostly, and, you know, that's been around since the 60s. But, yeah, I think Satanism in general, I mean, that's kind of where it's going. It's very community-driven, you know, and obviously different sects have different ideas of what that means to them. You know, COS does things their way, we do things our way. You know, we clearly disagree on those things, but as a whole, Satanism, I think it's going to, you know, continue to be relevant, you know, throughout, you know, for as long as it possibly can. I don't think it's going to fizzle out. I think it's only going to become stronger. You know, people, you know, really do identify with this, you know, with this idea of, you know, being a part of a group that's embracing our outsider status, and you know, either they're members or they're allies, but, you know, they, as far as TST is concerned, you know, we are very much geared towards that community, and we're growing so fast. We have people applying for chapters all over the place. You know, we have so much support and people coming out and saying, you know, I'm definitely a member. You know, this is my tribe. This is my group. So I think it's just going to keep expanding and really become a solid community.
And you're actually doing good, like what you said about the after school. You're actually teaching kids something worthwhile. So.
Right.
I think that's great.
And they can apply it to, you know, every aspect of their lives, no matter their background. I mean, they could be, you know, they can be Christian and still apply those things to their lives, and it doesn't conflict, I don't think.
So you have had kids go to the after school program. Most of them, what are their backgrounds? If you
various,
could say.
various. Yeah. I mean, we don't really ask.
Oh, okay.
It's really not. Yeah, us knowing their background, as far as that, it's not a requirement. We really don't. Care.
And besides the school stuff, do you guys get together and hang out? Like, is there events that you guys do or sponsor?
Oh, just the chapter, the TSC?
Yeah.
So
your
we've
chapter.
so last year we had our big unbaptism event, and that was really a lot of fun. It was this really fun big ritual that we did. And ever since then, we've been trying to, you know, do a lot of community stuff. So we had like our monthly, we would either do meet and greets or just, we did like a Halloween party one time. We did a bar crawl. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, so we're trying to do a little bit of both. We've been a little quiet the last couple months simply because, you know, the holidays get around. We're really busy, and you know, we're trying to kind of regroup a little bit. But you know, we're planning. We have a campaign in the works that we're working on, something pretty big, and you know, we want to do these monthly meetings again to try and, you know, not only for our members, but for people who are interested. So we do a bit of both. So we'll do like little events, and then we'll do like meet and greets or, you know, information meetings, stuff like that.
So how does one find out about these events? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people who listen that would be interested in seeing more about it.
Sure. Everything that we do, we post on our Facebook, and we also have so we have our Facebook group. It's just the Satanic Temple / Utah chapter. We're also on Instagram. We're also on Twitter. So we try to update. Anytime we schedule an event, we always post it as such. So we try to make sure everyone knows what's going on.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool. How many members do you have in Utah and nationwide? Do you know those numbers?
Nationwide, I'm not sure what those numbers are. I know it's in the tens of thousands, I think. People who like sign up and say that they're members. But as far as the Utah chapter, we have people who are like active members. So people who identify as, you know, Satanists, as members of TST. You know, there's a handful of us as far as active. You know, anywhere between 6 to 8. But we have a lot of people who identify as members who are more hands off. You know, they more of the, you know, we're members, but they don't want to be necessarily hands on. They, you know, they'll show up to events and stuff like that. But as far as the planning and, you know, putting stuff together, you know, they're just like, oh, we'll just show up.
Yeah.
So that ranges. Yeah, we've got a few dozen of those, maybe even more that I'm not sure about. But
So how do you become a member?
So you can just go onto our website, thesatanictemple.com, and there's a part where you can go to membership, and you essentially just read through the tenets, and there's a little thing saying by agreeing to this, I am saying I'm a member of the Satanic Temple, and I will adhere to not going around saying I'm a representative and stuff like that. And then you just give in the email address, and there you go. You're a member.
Cool. I think you might have 3 new members later
Nice.
today.
And
Oh yeah.
and so how what's been the most fulfilling part of being a head of a chapter and being involved in this for you?
The community aspect, kind of, finding my tribe, finding the group of which I didn't think existed, or, being a part of something I never thought I had. So getting to know the people and, being involved with a lot of the stuff that we've been doing. I feel very adamantly about, some of the stuff that we're doing with the reproductive rights. Gray Faction is another thing that I'm, heavily supportive of, and that's the identifying the cultish, the false satanic panic within the mental health field, identifying people that are, instilling this bullshit into their patients' heads, and kind of continuing this idea of ritualistic abuse, which doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Just doing good, doing good things, and having my tribe, and I like my group. Here in Utah, we have a really good group. I mean, we're small. We're really small, but it's a good group of people, and they're and we're really trying to accomplish a lot of good things this year. So.
Well, I think it's good to have people you can relate to, and people you can connect with. As a human being, we all need that, and and it's hard when you are part of a group that is small.
Yeah.
Whether being an atheist or part of the Satanic Temple, it's good to connect with people who have the same like-minded ideas.
Yeah.
So I just want to read a little bit of this article, and I don't know if you guys have plans to do anything about this.
Sure.
Or
I just want to point out, you can read the Satanic Bible for free. I went to your guys' website. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm on their website now checking out the merchandise.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
hilarious.
yeah,
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Satanic Bible isn't our canon, so
Okay.
Yeah, we would gear you more towards reading Revolt of Angels by Anatole France, or something like that. That's more within our canon.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would read it. I think it's got some good stuff in there, but that's not that's more Church of Satan canon than it is ours. So.
Okay.
So Oklahoma Republicans advance bill to put 10 Commandments display in public schools. After a years-long battle, which they lost over a monument outside the Capitol building, State Rep. John Bennett has now proposed House Bill 2177, which would allow posting of the commandments in all public buildings, including courthouses and public schools. Mm-hmm. Have you heard about this, and do you guys have any plans, if so, to...
I don't know about plans, but we're definitely aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We could get little Baphomet statues in all public schools.
Yeah.
No, I say you use contrast. Like, I say you put up the 10 commandments of the Satanic Temple, and just let people read the difference between the two.
Yep. Which one's actually good?
Yeah. Which one do you like better?
Yeah. Well, if you go in a lot of schools, you'll see stuff like In God We Trust. We've noticed that.
Yeah, and that's been one of the most disappointing legal battles that I've heard of. It was the In God We Trust, because they're treating it like it's a motto, so therefore it has no religious aspect to it. Is what the Supreme Court the last ruling from the Supreme Court came down as. So that means In God We Trust is completely legitimate and is non-religious.
Is non-religious.
Yeah, In God
But
We Trust is not
when they
religious.
mention Lord in the Constitution, that's super religious, right?
Yeah, the year of our Lord.
Oh, see, they're Christian.
We're Christian.
Yeah.
We're a Christian nation.
Yeah, well, one of our chapters is working on. They have their own campaign of trying to replace "In God We Trust" with "E Pluribus Unum,"
okay.
the original motto. So they're kind of working on that. I don't know where they are at that, but I know that's kind of something that our other chapters have been working on.
Awesome.
I like what the Satanic Temple does. I love it. Every time I read an article or see any news story about it, I just
Yeah, and I've covered it for law class a few times.
yeah,
Oh, nice.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
No, just keep an eye out for as far as the Utah chapter, we've got a big campaign that we're working on right now, and we'll be announcing, I don't know, within a month or two. So keep an eye out for that. And then we're also going to be scheduling like meet and greets and stuff like that for people who are interested. And that's not just Satanists. I mean, anybody can come out and be involved and see if there's anything that they want to help us with or anything like that. So. And
you've been talking about it kind of abstractly as an event. Are you allowed to spoil any of that or no?
Not yet, no.
Not yet? Okay.
I was going to ask the same thing.
Damn it. Damn it.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. And
thank you for having me.
Teaching us a little bit about the Satanic Temple. It was great.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So that was our interview with Chalice Blythe, and she was fucking awesome. So thank you guys for checking us out and for listening to the podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and rate, especially if you want to get me excommunicated. And we'll see you guys next week.
Alrighty, see you guys.
Remember, Josh, to think. Yeah. I stole it. Totally stole your response.